This is the house of the Lord, and I wish the best for you. This is the house of the Lord, and I wish the best for you. It's not meant to be flash. Thank you. Thank you, Bruce, for opening your doors like this. It's extremely meaningful, especially as we finish Hanukkah and you ask if I could do something with art because of Art Basel, and I happen to have this poster just behind you. The poster on the table, just exactly behind. You see the faces, and there's a quote. There is a quote on it. And I would like to start perhaps a little discussion, not just about me talking, although I can talk a lot, but it's an exchange about the quote on this poster, which is extremely meaningful because we just finished Hanukkah. The quote on it is, "From every human being there rises a light." From every human being there rises a light. And this quote comes to us from the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov. Now, do we know who the Baal Shem Tov is?
Rabbi Israel.
Yes? Ben Eliezer.
Right.
Very good. You have some Hasidim here. Alright, I need to take my payas out. So yes, but apart from that, apart from his name, do we know that this wonderful crowd know about the Baal Shem Tov, what he did?
He's the man.
Huh?
He's the man.
He's the man, absolutely. He's the man. And why is he the man? He was really one of the most creative figures in the 18th century. Actually, he started his movement, the Hasidism, in 1733, which is kind of late in the whole scheme of Jewish history. Why was he so special, so different? Because he actually was this revolutionary visionary. What was the mainstream Judaism at the time? What was the mainstream Judaism at the time? You studied in yeshiva, it was yeshivish, and then if you knew, if you were knowledgeable, if you had an education in Judaism, then you were it. And if you couldn't afford education, if you were just a schlepper, then too bad for you. That's it. And so it was a bit elitist. You didn't have in between. So you had many people. People wanted to be Jewish. People wanted to learn. People wanted to be connected with God. But the mainstream Judaism was built in a way that if you didn't know so much, then that's the way it is. Then unfortunately, so he said, you know what? If you don't have really great education in Judaism, it's okay. It's fine. And let's get together. And if you want to pray, but you don't know how to pray, then you can sing and dance. And that's going to be a really mamish, incredible prayer to God. You can pray your heart out, your soul out to God by dancing, by singing, even without words. Without words. So he came up with nigunim. Like incredible. Just a nigun is a melody without any words. So the Hasidim go like this. Imagine if words a pen of the heart, then the melody is a pen of the soul. What does it mean? Oh, you can say words. We can all say words. And saying prayers with words is extremely important because we have the words of the prayer book. And also we need to be able to express ourselves to God. Have a conversation with God, which is not always easy. It's not always obvious. However, if you sing a melody that really speaks to you, you know, your soul really resonates. We all have a song that we really like. It could be a Jewish song, it doesn't have to be a Jewish song. And you said, you know what, this song, it really has something, it resonates. Just like when you play an instrument and you have a crystal glass, and then when you play the exact same note, it resonates. So it happens with our soul also. Like inside, we can resonate with a special melody. You sing this melody without words, and the intention, your intention is a prayer to God, it goes straight up. Because your soul, when you say that melody is a pen of the soul, our soul is connected to the source of everything, to the creator of our soul. Mm-hmm. So when we don't have the words, our soul knows exactly what to say. And when you sing this melody, it goes straight up. There's no traffic jam. It goes straight up. So this is how the Baal Shem Tov was so creative. He was able to say, you know, you don't know Talmud, you don't know your Siddur really well, you know, that you can't follow the service. It's okay. Let's get together, and you'll be able to be the most super Jew that you can ever imagine. And then, so what he did, he started to tell stories. And when you have a really good story, you have stories with many levels. So let's say you don't know, you hear the stories. This is a great story. I learned something out of it. Well, let's say you're someone, you studied with the Baal Shem Tov for a little while. He says, oh, I know what he's talking about. There's another level here. He's telling the story. It's really good at the first level, but he's telling me something else. And then you have different levels, deeper and deeper and deeper levels. This is the genius of this this storyteller. So he started this movement, and after that you had different Rabbis that started. He has his son, his grandson, and everything, and you have different dynasties. And over the years, some of them didn't get along with each other. It still happens to this day, unfortunately. But you know, it's okay. It's all for the sake of Hashem. As long as they don't throw rocks at each other, it's okay. You know. But what is really cool, and what is really ironic with all this, is that he was extremely open-minded. When you think that the mainstream was that you need to have your Gemara open like this and go like this, and this is how it is, and that's it. And he says, no, you don't have to do it this way. You can reach it through another way. Can you imagine how that was unheard of? I mean, like in the whole world, Western world, because with the Christians was the same way. You know, they were kept in the dark, and that's it. You don't know, yeah. But he says, no, you can do that. So it's ironic how Hasidism now, they consider the ultra-Orthodox and the more like a narrow-minded, and it's not really, it's not the case originally. And then, by the way, you have many Hasidim who are not narrow-minded whatsoever. It's just the image that they project. And of course, like everywhere, like anywhere, you will find people who are narrow-minded. Even in the Reform and the Conservative, under construction, Orthodox, and whatever, you will find open-minded people and closed-minded people. And that's another story. So now, he loved the concept of light. He really developed the idea of light. So now we just finished Hanukkah. We all know, we just finished Hanukkah. Like adding light to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. Actually, I'm going to tell you, if you want to come this Shabbos, I'm going to talk about something called Kodesh LeKodesh. The Kodesh Kodeshim. Kodesh LeKodesh is to add holiness. Kodesh, it means holy. So Kodesh LeKodesh is holy and holy. When you do Havdalah, the last brachot, the last blessing of Havdalah, which is the ceremony that ends Shabbat. The last blessing is Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechol, who separates the holy to the secular. Okay, so because it's the end of Shabbat, you have the holy day Shabbat, and then it becomes a regular day, and we're like a Sunday is starting. When it happens every once in a while, not that often, when the end of Shabbat coincides with the beginning of a holiday, for example Rosh Hashanah, then the Havdalah, we say Hamavdil ben Kodesh LeKodesh, who separates between holy and holy. This is really amazing. Can you imagine when you're saying You make a separation between holy and something even a different kind of holiness. You know, this is, you're adding holiness to something holy. You continue, it's really amazing. And to live your life, Kodesh LeKodesh, is something that we can strive for and we can achieve because we are descendants, we are Yehudim, descendants of Yehuda, who this week, he goes mamish to Yosef. He doesn't know that Joseph is a brother, okay? And Vayigash elav Yehuda. So Vayigash is like, he stood in front of him. Yehuda stood in front of him. You know what it means? He stood in front of him. In front of who? Of course we know he's talking about Joseph. We take it for granted. But the Zohar said, it's not what you think. Of course he's standing physically in front of Joseph. Vayigash elav Yehuda means he stood in front of him. He was standing in front of God. You know, really often on top of the arks, it's written, no da lifnei mi ata omed. Know in front of whom you're standing. This is to give the sense that like you're in the sanctuary in front of the ark. No, remember in front of who you're standing right now. You know, between you and I, if we remembered that statement a little bit more often, not only in the sanctuary, but outside of the sanctuary, to remember that in fact we're really standing in front of God all the time, that perhaps our relationships would be a little bit different. Maybe we would say things a little bit differently. But, you know, such is nature. It's okay. But now, at that moment, he was living a life of Kodesh LeKodesh. He was opening up his heart to God. He was saying, you know what? So many things went wrong in my life. I missed the mark a few times. I did, you know, it was not so ay. This time it can't happen. I'm sorry, it can't be this way. I can't let my brother Binyamin rot in the jail to become a slave. This cannot happen. Something must happen. And he went in front of God. And he lived a life. At that moment, he went from Kodesh to Kodesh LeKodesh. Kodesh LeKodeshim. Which is really amazing because, you know, all the tribes had a different portion in the land of Israel. The portion of Binyamin, you know what it was? Is a Kodesh Kodeshim. You know what it is? The Kodesh Kodeshim in the temple, the Holy of Holies. You know, you have the Holy Temple, and the Holy of Holies is the little room where you had the Ark. And, you know, in the Ark you had the 2 sets of the 10 Commandments, and the only one person would be able to get in is a Kohen Gadol, like, yeah. And only once a year, because the thing is that, and it was really dangerous, because let's say, God forbid, he passes out in that room, nobody can take him back because you're not allowed to get in. Otherwise, you get in, you die. You know, so that was a bit challenging. So they had to like organize something like, you know, if he falls, you know, boom, you can pull it out, you know, without coming in. You know, so it was, but so that was also the big connection with Yehuda and Binyamin. He was going from Kodesh to Kodesh to Kodesh. From holy to holy and holy, the Holy of Holies. Now, this is a little bit what the Baal Shem Tov is teaching us. He says, you know, there is a light. There is a light. We all know that we have a light, the divine light inside of us. We all know that. How do we know that? How do we know that? We created in the image of God. We have inside of us Nishmat Chaim, the breath. Like it's a breath of life, which comes from God, right? So we all have it. Now, he says, don't forget that there is a light in front of everybody, because if you're aware of that, that's something different. So now we can talk about light. We can have a poster. We can have someone. We can have a Baal Shem Tov talking about light. Okay, that's a little while ago, 200 years ago. More than that. But let me tell you something. I was in Israel. I just came back exactly 2 weeks ago. And I would like to share something with you that relates to light. And after that, we'll relate to this. because we'll open the discussion because I have a few questions relating to this poster. But before we continue talking about light, because you may say, oh, of course, it's a metaphor. Light, divine light. Okay, it's all really nice. But let me tell you something. I need to start from the beginning of the story, and because things like this can happen everywhere, but they really happen, mamish, in Israel, like there's no tomorrow. And in the old city, there's one Jewish bookstore. So I went there, I wanted to buy a book. If you know me, I really like books. So I see this book, and I'm totally drawn to it right away. It's The Soul of Hanukkah, Teachings of Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach. Great. So I look at every other book, and that's the only book that I buy. I buy this book, and then I don't want to read it all right away. It's like if you have like this really great cake, you want to save a little bit later, So I wanted to keep it also for the plane ride, but I couldn't wait. I opened it a little bit, and I read the beginning, and I read the introduction, which happens to be a really good introduction. They talk because they knew Shlomo Carlebach, they knew the author and everything. It turns out that the people who wrote it's a couple who wrote the introduction. The woman is the granddaughter of one of the congregants, my congregants, who's a survivor from Hungary, and I'm really close to her because she's really old and she's wonderful, and she can't really, she needs help. So I'm trying to take care of her, but I can't go there every day. So I was talking to her daughter who lives in Jerusalem, and we agreed to that she needs help. And at one point, her granddaughter, the person who wrote the introduction with her husband, came to Miami. I picked her up at the airport with two of her children. I bought her pizza, 2 for 1 actually, at the other one on Monday nights. And so I brought her that. I brought her back to the airport. So we had this connection already. And I read this introduction. And it's her. So I emailed her right away. Said, "This is incredible. I buy this book, and you wrote the introduction. I mean, I didn't even know that." And she says, "Yeah, it's amazing. It was a great thing to be able to have the opportunity to write and to be part of this project." He says, "My husband gives tours of Hebron. If you want to come to Hebron, you can." And I had never been until that day. I had never been to Hebron, and I always wanted to go to Hebron, which, if you know, it's where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rivka, and Leah are buried. It is also believed that there Adam and Eve are buried. So when Abraham was buying that burial plot for his wife Sarah, he paid the high price, and he didn't even blink, he didn't even bargain. That's the price because he knew that it's a very special place. So that's it, and we know that it's there because forever, since the beginning, like we've been going there. So it's not like there's a doubt. We know that they are buried there. We don't specifically know exactly what place, but we know that's the place. So I arranged to go to Hebron, and before that, like that night when I emailed everything, I'm having dinner at Mechane Yehuda with someone that I met in another incredible class. It was this Kabbalist who was giving a meditation thing. Anyway, so we're having dinner, and I tell him the story. Like, "Hey, can you imagine I bought this book, and it's a granddaughter of my congregation?" And he says, "Yeah, I know the author. His name is Shlomo Katz, and he's giving a shiur tomorrow night, a class tomorrow night, and I'm going, and you can come if you want." I said, so I went there. So that's apparently this is so that eventually I go to Hebron, and by the way, I get there, and it was like a minivan. They threw rocks at us. There's like 1,000 Jews against 30,000 Hamas Arabs there, and they don't want a two-state solution. They want a one-state solution with no Jews. So but that's the Hamas anyway, and these 1,000 Jews who live there. You can't imagine how special they are, because they want to keep a Jewish presence in Hebron. Because if there's no Jewish presence, then nobody can go and visit the cave of Machpelah. So they live there with constant danger. I mean, always. Just even last week, the IDF caught someone he had all these bombs and everything to do a terrorist attack. So anyway, So that's, and their life is not easy, but it's still, despite everything, they live there. So anyway, so I go to Hebron, and so the husband, this is what the whole point is the one he's showing me around. So he tells me the story. They have a few kids, and one of the kids is deeply autistic, not artistic. She has autism. So they went to see Mekubalim, Kabbalists, and big Rabbanim in Israel. This is what religious people do, apart from doctors. Like what can we do? And they all said she has a very high soul. Her soul is like mamish, like up there. So he says, the reality of it is that she's 7 or 8 years old, and she has diapers. She hasn't spoken one word. She bites herself. She bangs her head on the wall. The reality of it is different, and she might have a very high soul, but when you live with that, it's not a really easy thing. But anyway, he davens there every day, every morning, and every afternoon for Mincha Mari. He davens at the cave of Machpelah with the patriarchs and matriarchs. And so that day, one day, that's like a year ago now, he's with his daughter, the autistic daughter, and if just so you know, the cave there, parts of it are controlled by the Jews and parts of it are controlled by the Arabs. So when you look, it's really strange. You look at the whole structure. The top part looks like a mosque, and it's like, what's going on here? It's very strange. So anyway, so she at one point she bolts and she starts to climb in a place where it's understood that it's controlled by the Arabs. So all the security, the IDF are there, like, what are you doing? Stop her! Stop her! And she goes, she climbs, and she climbs. But it's also the place where it's believed that Adam and Eve are buried. This is according to tradition. She climbs there, and that moment she says the first words of her life. The first words of her life, she says, perfectly, there is a great light that comes from here. A great light comes from this place. So let me tell you, when I hear something like this, I know that when we talk about light, it's not Baba Mises. I know that some people can see it. And I can claim to feel it, to see it, or whatever. It's not the same thing than this girl who's able to say that there's a great light. She doesn't know that Adam and Eve are supposed to be, like, whatever. She knows that her father goes there to daven, but she doesn't know, like that particular place, a great light was coming out. So the Baal Shem Tov is telling us that from every human being, there is a great light that emanates. And I said, you know what? It's so meaningful. Because if this girl was above where Adam and Eve were, whatever the concept of Adam and Eve you want to have, it doesn't really matter. We're descendants from Adam and Eve. We're also descendants of Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. There's a great light that comes out from there. We're descendants of these incredible people. We have the same amazing light. The Baal Shem Tov says there is a light in every single person. And now the goal, just after Hanukkah, there was a machloket for Hanukkah. Machloket is a disagreement between Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai. They always argued, you have to do it this way. The other one he says you have to do it this way. So when it was decided that you have to observe Hanukkah, it's a historical holiday, so we don't have like a biblical commandment. This is how you have to do it. So they have to decide how we're gonna observe the Fakakta holiday. We know we have to observe it for 8 days, but how? We know we want to light a menorah, but how? So Bet Shammai, he says, the first day you have 8 days of potential miracles. 8 days. You have 8 days of upcoming miracles, right? So you light it up. It's eight lights. And the second day, you have only 7 days of miracles left, so you light only 7. And the last day, you have only 1 day of miracle left, so you have only 1 day, one candle. And then Ben Hillel says, well, that's not fun. I mean, come on. If you want to do mitzvah, you need to do it pretty. You need to do hidur mitzvah. You need to make it like, it looks like something. The first day you have only one candle, you finish with 8 candles because this is, you finally had 8 days of miracles, right? Of course he won. This is the way we do it, you know. So, because he had something very important. You know, it's not like you take something and then you remove one, you remove another one, you remove another one, you remove another one. It's not the way to do it. You do something and then you add to it and you keep adding and adding and adding. So when we talk about light, you know, we're all here for a reason. Okay, like I'm talking, like we're talking about this table. Yes, we're here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But in this lifetime, this incarnation that we have, we're here for a reason. We were given a light. How bright is your light going to shine? Are you going to add light to the light that you have? Are you going to put fuel so your light can shine and be real true light in the world and the universe? So that is the question. That is the question. Of course, there's different ways to do that. We can discuss this. How can we truly be a light? And it's so important. We just spent 8 days of adding light. And now, this whole energy is still so strong until this Shabbos, next Shabbos, because the parashiot are so connected to the holiday of Hanukkah. It's so connected. We still have all these miracles, all this light. This light is still so bright. You just take it and try to keep it up the whole year. So, I would like to ask you something. Just let's shift a little bit. If maybe you have a question or something, I don't know. But otherwise, let's look at this print. So you had an artist who decided to illustrate this quote from every person. Their how does it sound?
Right.
Huh?
The rises a light. Every human being that rises a light.
So now, in your opinion, how does this poster present the quotation? If you wanted to illustrate this quote, how would you illustrate it? For example, let's look at it.
Mm-hmm.
9 different colors.
Hmm?
There's 9 different colors.
Yes? 9 different colors.
Purple
But-
people have lights too. Purple people have lights too.
But look,
There's more clarity toward the top.
There's a lot of symbols in this. If you look, there's something that is similar in every single one. First, is it the same person everywhere?
No.
It's not the same person. So that's already a symbol. It's not one type of person. It's not one type of person. You know, we're all Jews, right? I say this all the time. There's apple juice, tomato juice, grape juice. We're all Jews. Doesn't matter. Yeah, doesn't matter. So all sorts of Jews here. Now let's look at it. They all have something in common. If you look at the bottom, you
Lighter
look at
toward
the top. Right? When we talk about soul, when we talk about ourselves, like when you say, this is you, this is me, we go like this. But when we talk about soul, usually we imagine it like in this part. So you have like from the dark to the light. And the light that comes out, that comes forth. So that's already one symbol that you have in every single one of them. And now, I would like you to perhaps come up with something. When you have these, it's a silhouette. Can you see features? Well, not at all, actually.
I mean, you can see the ears. You can see that.
Ears in here.
Yes,
Silhouette.
what I'm talking about, like eyes and nose and mouth, and you don't see features. So why do you think the artist chose to present people like this, men and women, without any features? What do you,
It's
or-
while each is distinct as far as the basic outline, they're all uniform in that we're all effectively the same.
Mhm. That's it.
There might be different cladding, in this case, the colors, of course, the shapes, and yet when it comes right down to it, the neshama is the neshama yitira and kadosh.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you, if we wanted to discuss light, this maybe different meanings of light as used in this quotation. Can light mean something different? Light can mean something different from one person to the next. How can light shine? First, let's discuss this. How can you make it shine?
Create more colors. Light can create more colors. More diversity.
Meaning?
Well, from a physics perspective, there's only three main colors. From those three main colors, you've created the entire rainbow.
Yeah.
So just from that one sense of light, from one thought, one characteristic, one personality, you can create all sorts of opinions and judgments, or lack of judgments, which
Mhm.
creates diversity and which create
Okay.
sparks.
So you can have different sparks.
Yeah.
Sparks can emanate from different perspectives.
Mhm.
Very good. So that's already something. And so you, if you want to spread light, what are different? For example, we can leave with something practical. We want to spread light. We want to bring more light in this world. What are different ways to do it?
Create interaction.
Hmm?
Interact with each other.
Interact with each other. Meaning, there's different ways of interacting with each other.
Through the five senses.
Versa.
But knowing that everybody has a divine spark, knowing that everybody is created b'tselem Elokim, in the image of God, does that mandate something as far as relationship goes?
Doesn't it come down to responsibility at that point? If we're cognizant of being Hashem shluchim on earth, it's a totally it's not the Hebrew, not just Hebrew national. It's a totally higher standard.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a rep, and so the notion is we have to raise our game constantly, and the question is, how do we do that?
How do you do that?
More mitzvot, clearly. More Gemilut Hasadim, or
We have many ways. A
No, of course.
tradition tells
Sure.
us many ways. Many that it gives. We have a wealth of information how to engage with other people, and what to do and mostly what not to do also as far as interactions. I'm not talking about not to do on Shabbos or whatever like kashrut. I'm talking about interactions. And then again, this quote that we have on top of many arcs, know in front of whom you're standing, it's really like Yehuda was in front of Yosef. And that the Zohar says, don't think that Yehuda was standing just in front of Yosef. He knew at that moment he was standing before God. If we're able to remember such a thing at every moment, that in fact you're standing before God. Why am I standing in front of you? If I'm standing in front of you, I'm standing before God. If my awareness is that there is a spark of God, and this spark emanates from you, how can't I treat you accordingly? It's and that is a big challenge, and this is one of the big things of our journey in this physical plane. Because again, according to the Zohar, what's happening in the narrative, the biblical narrative, is something that happens in our life. So when we say that now, because now what happens in the narrative, Yosef and his brothers are reunited, and Yaakov is going to be reunited. So that means that Israel, Bnei Israel, okay, are going to go to Egypt. This is how we found ourselves in Egypt, and we became slaves for a while. This is how it all started. Because in 2 weeks from now we start the narrative. The Pharaoh didn't remember who Yosef was, and adopted everybody as a slave. Now, what the Zohar says, what the mysticism says, is that when Jacob went into Egypt, when everybody found themselves, where all our ancestors found themselves into Egypt, it was a descent. They were in the land of Israel just before, and they did a descent. But why is this descent? Why? Like, how come? Like, it's in the Bible. Like, it's and it looks like God has this incredible plan for the people of Israel, and you have to bring them down like this to suffer, knowing that they are going to suffer. Why do you have to go down like this? And the Zohar says something really amazing. It said it's to go down only to bounce up even higher after. And that happened to everybody. I mean, to like the big figures. We have Noah also. We had Adam and Eve also. It went down to try to bounce even higher. And then this is what happens to our soul. It's a descent for the sake of an ascent. And this is, again, awareness makes the whole difference. So our soul, let's imagine our soul living in the universe of souls. You know, you have different levels, and like, you're really happy, like the presence of God. It's all light, you know, whatever. It's a really comfortable. And then God says, okay, now it's time to go down on earth, and you're going to be in a body. And the soul says, well, you know, I'm not really in the mood, because suddenly, if I have to go down, I know that I'm gonna have to suffer. I mean, the first moment, you come out for years. You come out, you're born. They give you a patch, the first thing, so you can cry a little bit. He's alive. Okay. And after that, you catch a cold. You this and that, growing pains, and your life. You need to do this and that, and but why? Why? This is, I can't answer why. The reason why the universe is built this way, but I can say why, because through this experience we can achieve incredible heights. We can achieve incredible heights. So this light that we're talking about can become very, very bright. It's the sake of this voyage, of this trip in this physical realm, is only so we can grow amazingly well. So that's what we're doing right now. But we can grow. We go down to go higher, and you will find that it's true in many different areas. So the life in general is like a descent in order to ascend. But if you look at the cycle of our life, within our life, you know, we have one way or the other way. Sometimes it seems like we go down. But if you put all your energy in it, and you concentrate on the light, then what happens? Then you grow even higher. This is the purpose of the whole thing. Why does it have to be this way? I don't know. We can't change that. You know, that's the way it's built. It's the way it's built. You know, there must be a good reason. Apparently, when we're at the other side, you see that everything makes sense. So, okay, everything makes sense. But now, what I really want to concentrate is this light. This light that we need to cherish, because what happens is that our tradition says we all have this light. It's really beautiful. But we have klipot, you know, we have all these things that cover this light. We all know that when we sleep, it's like a 60th of death. You know, that God takes part of our soul. It doesn't take it all. Doesn't take it all, because if you took the whole soul, then we would die. You know, like an apple. No, it's still attached, but takes it, and then cleans it up, and then puts it back into our body. Thank you, Hashem. You like to put back. Thank you for putting back my soul into my body. And then we say the morning prayers. You know what we say? We say, God, the soul that you have given me is pure. Can you imagine? This is so drastically different than other traditions. It's original sin and we're born like sinners and everything. No. God, the soul that you put into me is pure. So to begin with, our soul is pure. Our soul is beautiful. Whatever we do during the day to schmutz it up is something else. God still will take it the day after, the night after, will polish it and put it back. So there is great light into our soul. And we have great potential. So, the idea is that we need to be aware of this light. We need to be aware of it. Because sometimes it may be easy to say, okay, I'm aware that you're creating the image of God. I'm aware that you have a divine spark and that is good for my interaction with you, good. But if you're unaware of your own divine spark, it's a little bit harder to imagine how bright the spark is in someone else. So our first work is really work in this awareness. Pizza.
Took him a few hours to get from 41st Street.
It's our Basel.
Yeah.
It's terrible, yeah.
So part of our journey is also to discover our own light within. And then when you discover your light, when you're aware of your own light, you have to be so careful with it. You have to really keep it and cherish it and treat it as if it were one of the most treasured possessions that you have. It's so beautiful. You really need to cherish this light that you have. You need to discover it. And when you do that, after that, when you're really aware of this light, you don't want to get it dirty. You want to keep it shining. You want it beautiful, because if you have a beautiful piece of crystal and it's all dusty and everything, it's not pretty. It's not nice. You walk into your living room or whatever, you have this piece of crystal, it's all schmutzig. No, you want to clean it up, so you dust it. You want to keep it nice, because the reason why you have it there, so it can shine, it can sparkle, and it adds a beautiful dimension in your life. So the same thing, when you need to discover it. We all so easily forget that we have this divine spark. So when we say here, there is a light that emanates from everybody. Okay, it's really easy to say this, but please first remember your own. Now, when you consider yourself a light, the beautiful thing is that when you have the shamish for the Chanukiah, you light 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with one flame. You can light actually thousands, and the first flame is not going to diminish, right? This is the beauty of a flame. This is the beauty of the symbolism of a flame. Is that with one flame, you can light so many others. Your own light can bring more light to so many other people, and your own light will never diminish. Actually, it has a great chance to become even brighter, even bigger. So this is the message again. To harness our incredible capacity to shine. We can be a light when we discover our own uniqueness. We are light when we decide to do something that we know is good. This light can shine, will come forth, And why is it a light? Because when you do something, when you decide to be a mensch, you do something good, why is it called being a light? Because you lead by example. Hopefully someone will see this and say, you know what? If he or she can do that, maybe I can do it too. And let's say I'm not going to do it to the same extent, but I will do a little bit. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what happens? You never know. You never know. This is how you bring so much light by doing one little thing of light. You bring so much light because someone else might decide to do it. Incredible. When you do this, what happens? Bring more light in the world. There is darkness, of course. If there's light, there's darkness. Now, let's not get confused, you know, with Hollywood says that the forces of darkness and the forces of everything emanates from the same. Are you okay? Everything emanates from the same place, from the same source of everything. Now we're Jewish. We believe that everything comes from one thing, from God. So we create light and we create darkness, basically. It's not something else. It's not, you know, we have the Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara, the good inclination, bad inclination. So darkness is not a force. Darkness exists because, unfortunately, we create it. And it's okay because we can bring light. We can bring light. But the thing is that you can be a light. This is something that is really strange. We talk about darkness. Sometimes it's dark because of ignorance. Sometimes it's dark because, not because it's evil. It's dark because it's just dark. But let's say you have one candle in a cave. Mamish, are you going to see this candle? Are you going to be able to see this candle in the cave? But let's say it's noon in Miami Beach. You're on the beach, you put a candle. Are you going to see the candle? You're not going to see it. So sometimes you need to be aware of that. Darkness is not necessarily evil. Darkness is when it's a lack of light and then we need to just illuminate it. You put a lot of candles, it becomes so mamish, so amazingly beautiful. Ah, it's so nice. Anyway, when we talk about ethics, this is what it is. And then we spoke about being descendants of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, of Yehuda, we are Yehudim. What is it? We carry a big burden, but we're still ambassadors of this ancient, very ancient, majestic people. This is it, to carry your light. It's not the Olympic Games. It's just to make our light brighter and brighter and brighter. Is there anything you would like to add? Ask, whatever.
Geula when? Geula when? Geula when?
Geula
When?
when? You know,
Trick questions.
you know, when I was in Jerusalem, I was in the old city, and I told this on Wednesday night, the last night of Hanukkah. The situation happened. It was very interesting. But I was walking. I had my black suit and a white shirt and my tzitzis, and actually had a black hat. And this man comes to me and says, "Are you Jewish?" Yeah. He was not Jewish, you know. So he says, "You know, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." So he says, "I heard that there's a group of people who are gathering material to build the third temple. Is that true?" I said, "I don't know. I know that there's a yeshiva for Kohanim, you can go there to get ready when the third temple is being built, to be ready to know all the laws, how to do this and that. Okay, well, yeah, let's turn Meshugas. Right. Now, if there's a group of people that are gathering materials to build a third temple, I don't know. I said, regardless, I said, I thought about it. I said, it doesn't really matter. And actually, if people are gathering material, it's really the most beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. And this is again about bringing light. Can you imagine? When we have the temple, according to tradition, the Mashiach will be there, the Messianic era. It'll be world peace. It'd be like heaven on earth. Like, finally, we can just be really happy on earth. This is a time when so we can't wait for this really amazing time. We all know that it can happen in the blink of an eye. Mm-hmm. It can happen, if God wills it, it can happen like this, at this moment, this afternoon, tonight, tomorrow, whatever. It can happen any time. But the thing is that whatever we do, whatever action we do in this world creates a reality. So if you believe that world peace can happen just right now, but I want to be ready when that moment happens. I want to be ready. I don't want to be caught off guard. I want to make sure that when world peace happens, I'm ready to build the third temple. By gathering the material, if it's true, you are bringing a little bit of world peace. You are so convinced that it can happen that you are bringing a little bit of world peace. So this is when I was thinking about it, I was like, just this is a mashal. This is something that we can learn from that, because if we pretend that a beautiful situation can happen anytime, and you do everything to pretend that it's going to happen now, you are bringing it. Do you understand what I mean? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You're bringing the possibility of this positive outcome to happen. So this is what I learned in the middle of the old city through a question from a non-Jew who asked me if I was Jewish. And after that he said, "Do you know where I can get a good falafel?" I said, "Oh, by the way, we're standing in front of a falafel place." I said, "Yeah, go there." Anyway, so thank you so much. I'm going to sing another nigun maybe together. We talk about souls. And there's one of the Psalms that says, Barchi nafshi et Hashem. This is one of the most chutzpahdik thing that I can think of. It's like, my soul, bless God. He would ask my soul to bless God. Who is the source of all blessings? How can me, my little soul, bless God? God is supposed to bless me. But this is the most beautiful thing when you say this. Barchi nafshi et Hashem. Barchi nafshi et Hashem. Barchi nafshi et Hashem. Barchi nafshi et Hashem. Barchi nafshi, barchi nafshi, barchi nafshi et Hashem. Barchi nafshi, barchi nafshi, barchi nafshi et Hashem. 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 Barchi nafshi, barchi nafshi, barchi nafshi et Hashem. Barchi nafshi, barchi nafshi, barchi nafshi et Hashem. Have a good Shabbos. Have a good Shabbos. Thank you. I'm going to need to go because I'm going